Boxing truth here. Had to talk a little bit about the former CEO of Golden Boy Promotions, Richard Schaefer, who recently announced to the boxing press that he'll be making his return to boxing after months of speculation of what Richard Schaefer's next move will be after his forced resignation from Golden Boy almost 2 years ago. As the story goes, Richard Schaefer was a banker, was already successful in his career endeavors, when all of a sudden he got into boxing by Oscar De La Hoya, who was trying to upstart his new promotional company at the time called Golden Boy Promotions. And now it's where it is at today. And Oscar brought Schaefer into the boxing business, showed him the ropes, showed him how the boxing business works, and Schaefer became the CEO of the company, ran the day-to-day operations of the company for a number of years, perhaps almost a decade. And he did some good things while he was the CEO of Golden Boy. He made some big fights, developed a lot of relationships with a lot of boxing people in the industry, made some good fights, was able to co-promote some big fights with some of his rival promoters, some of the other power brokers in the States. But once he formed an alliance with Al Heyman, everything changed at Golden Boy. Richard Schaefer all of a sudden was starting to ignore his duties as the CEO of Golden Boy, was not looking out for the best interests of the company. And for some strange reason, a lot of Al Heyman fighters were appearing on Golden Boy promoted cards. And what Oscar De La Hoya at first thought were fighters that were signed under his promoter umbrella. But as Oscar soon became to realize, he was being betrayed by his close friend and Richard Schaefer, who in forming an alliance with Al Heyman, was trying to steal the company from Oscar De La Hoya right from under his nose. Oscar was going through his issues, his problems at the time, but he woke up in time to realize that Richard Schaefer and Al Heyman were trying to steal every single fighter that he had under his umbrella, and they were pretty much almost successful. After buyout negotiations failed, and where Heyman and Schaefer tried to buy Oscar out through the same company that's financing the PBC, Richard Schaefer was forced to resign and reached a settlement with Oscar after Heyman pretty much took his whole army of fighters, leaving Oscar with only a few assets, mainly a couple of fighters who ended up going back to Heyman. So in the end, all Oscar left with was Canelo, Lucas Matisse, at first Amir Khan, but then ended up changing, and also Leo Santa Cruz, whose contract was bought out fairly shortly after the settlement agreements. Now Richard Schaefer has been away from boxing ever since his forced resignation from Golden Boy, and people were wondering what his next move was. Was he going to get back into boxing? A lot of people expected it. And Schaefer's been able to make a decision on his career path ever since last August, after his non-compete clause agreement with Oscar was expired. It expired in the August of last year. But he was unsure at the time of what move he wanted to make. Didn't have any concrete plans of his future endeavors. Wasn't even sure he was going to get back into boxing. But he's had a change of heart, and now he's planning to return as a promoter. And a lot of people are wondering if he's going to perhaps be the CEO of Mayweather Promotions, continue his working relationship with Floyd, a guy he's worked a lot with in the past. He promoted 9 of Mayweather's last 11 fights. He was the promoter of record for a number of Mayweather promoted fights. And Schaefer has the option of joining Mayweather. Mayweather certainly could use a guy like Richard Schaefer in his company, a guy with influence, a guy with experience in developing a promotional brand, a guy who's made big fights, a guy who understands the business. However, Richard Schaefer is a snake. Is the guy really trustworthy? I mean, the guy was trying to wrestle the promotional company of Oscar. What's not to say he could do the same thing to others, but Schaefer did express interest in working with Mayweather again. I'm sure they'll do business in some sort of fashion. But Schaefer declined to discuss whether he didn't make it of any concrete plans that he's going to be promoting for Mayweather. But he'll work with him in some fashion. And Mayweather obviously wants to work with Schaefer again. The relationship they had when all three of them were working together, Mayweather, Heyman, Schaefer, he felt it was a successful partnership, and for them it was. They made money together, they made a lot of fights, and they pretty much formed an alliance and had a lot of power in the boxing business at one time. But Schaefer is saying he has major plans to announce in the coming weeks, that he's working on a big project. It's going to be interesting to see what Schaefer will bring to the table. Is he going to be promoting Mayweather's fights? Is he going to have his own promotional stable, his own company? Whatever moves he decides is going to have an impact on the business, the industry. And you just wonder what Richard Schaefer has up his sleeve and what he could do. What he did to Oscar was cold, was fucked up. And just makes you wonder what type of impact he could have on the business. Who will he work with? Is he willing to work with everybody? Because in the past he's shown that he's not able to. Just because some people in the industry insult him, he can't do business with them. Bob Arum used to joke that Richard Schaefer is just some Swiss banker that don't know shit about boxing. They used to go at it for a number of years, but we'll see what happens with Richard Schaefer. This was expected. He was going to be back sooner rather than later, and now he's back. He's going to be another player in the boxing business, a guy with influence, connections, still relationships with some of the guys he's worked with before. He's willing to work. He's very much wants to work with Mayweather in some capacity. Of course, Heyman. Heyman's a guy that was using him at one time as an advisor, or maybe he still is, for his PBC venture. And there was speculation that Schaefer was going to be the face of PBC, but after Schaefer read the reports of them losing money, the lawsuits, he quickly changed his mind about that. But we'll see what happens. What's the future holds for Richard Schaefer? An interesting character in boxing, a guy who shocked his family by leaving his initial job as a banker and joining the crazy business of the boxing world. But y'all let me know what y'all think. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.